I think lockdown was really hard for everybody. And what we knew straight away as a domestic abuse service was that people would be at increased risk of harm and isolation. And particularly for older people who the message was that they were the most vulnerable people and that they had to self-isolate and stay at home. And so what we saw was people being hidden, really, invisible to society, staying at home. We also saw that professionals were not going in, so a number of safeguarding opportunities ordinarily would have been picked up on were not picked up on. We saw the profile change very much from April 20 onwards. So we started seeing a number of older people coming through the service. And by older people, I'm talking about people in the 70s and their 80s and up to the 90s as well. Very much these were people that were being abused by their family members or by current partners. So we did see a reduction in ex-partner abuse during the time. One thing we learned during the pandemic when speaking to older people was about language and approach. And so we didn't say to somebody, are you a victim of domestic abuse? What we did say was, are you frightened? Is somebody in your family doing something to cause you concern or make you worried? And then by using those questions and starting a conversation and building trust, we then could put a safety plan together for that individual.
During COVID, we found that clients want something slightly different from us. Some of them are too anxious to leave the house, as we all have been. And in particular, our older clients were able to say to them, you can have counselling over the phone if you don't want to come and visit. Now, counselling's been a bit of a stigma, really, for our older clients. They've never had counselling before. And what we've found is that they've enjoyed the space, the freedom, the time with us as counsellors to actually explore perhaps 30, 40, 50 years of abuse, and they've never ever talked to anybody about it, and we've given them the space to do that. We've also been able to give them more sessions than we would normally be able to give them, and they've been able to sit in the comfort of their own home with a coffee and a tea and reflect later on those sessions. The feedback has been absolutely excellent from this.
We have seen some changes during the pandemic, during lockdown. We've actually supported multi-generational families now. So, for example, we've got one family where we've got 3 generations going from older person in the 70s down to an 18-year-old young woman. They've all been in lockdown with a perpetrator, and so they've come through different factions of the service, and they've all needed different forms of support as well. And again, the approach has been different. So with the older person, there was very much the push to keep the family dynamic, keep the family together, but stop the abuse. And yet with the 18-year-old, she has wanted to leave the family and start afresh. And so whilst we're looking at the family dynamic as a whole, we have to treat people as individuals and respond to their individual needs.
When we speak to our older clients, what we quite often find is that they have asked for help in the past. It might be a mum or a dad, and it's been a case of, you've made your bed, you need to lie in it. And that is very much what the older clients are coming to me for. So we've been able to build up their self-esteem, been able to talk to them, been able to make it a less frightening world to do things on their own, to leave that husband, to leave that partner. It's a very big decision after 50, 60 years of marriage sometimes, and we've helped them make some fantastic decisions. We had a particular lady who had decades and decades of control by her husband, and this resulted in her never feeling that she could do anything herself. She had no control over anything financial. She didn't know what was coming in and out of the house. She couldn't pay the bills. So when she finally decided to leave, and it was a massive, massive decision, when she came for counselling, we had to start to build her confidence on saying that you can pay a bill, you can look at a bank account, you can read a bank statement, you can make your own decisions. And we did a lot of work around that, weeks and weeks of work around that. And the end result is that she felt empowered really to run a bank account, and to actually, the end result was to sell her house and move on to another area where she will lead a very full and happy life.
For anybody who feels like they have been a victim of abuse, there are many different ways to reach out for help. So for serious incidents, for high risk, you can always go to the police. And if you're in danger, we would always say ring 999, and the police will then safeguard you and carry out a risk assessment with you. So that's really essential information. If you feel that you've been in a long-term abusive situation and there isn't an immediate risk and you want to reach out for help, I'd encourage you to contact a community domestic abuse service like ours. Because what will happen then is we'll talk about safety planning with you, but we look at your options, because not everybody is wanting to leave immediately and not everybody is wanting to leave at all as well. No two people have the same pathway through a service. There's also, in terms of the local authority, you've got, say, adult safeguarding as well. So if you're worried about a family member and you don't want to take it to the police, you can report it to adult safeguarding as a concern, and then they will talk to you, look at the issues, talk to the family member, and then put an action plan in place. And that might mean they refer into a service like ours as well.